What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Student Built Startups Podcast, Episode 9. I'm your host, Cameron Stone, entrepreneur and marketing analytics student at UMD. I interview student entrepreneurs to share their stories and business strategies. Today's guest will talk about the startup process and bringing your product all the way from concept to market. He has plenty of experience in this arena from the 6 businesses that he has owned. He will be sharing his story and how his education has played a role in it. I encourage you to go to fiberlightfs.com to find out more about his business, Fiberlight. I'm excited to introduce you to Justin Lair. Hey, Justin. Happy to have you on the show. I'll have you start off by saying hello to everyone listening and sharing one crazy but true fact about yourself.
How's it going, guys? My name's Justin. Thanks so much, Cameron, for having me. One crazy fact about myself, I worked for President Bush as a presidential guard. I was in the Marine Corps, and so I've been to Camp David many times. I've been to his ranch in Texas. I've been to other top secret, awesome, cool facilities and flown around the world on really awesome, top secret presidential helicopters. So,
oh wow, yeah. That's awesome, man. So what exactly does a presidential guard do? Like, what does that entail?
Yeah, we just we stand there, look good in our dress blue uniform, and we're one of the guys that stands at the bottom of the staircase when the president gets on and off the helicopter. We salute him when he gets on the helicopter. So I mean, the public, that's what the public sees us doing. But for the most part, that presidential helicopter is a presidential asset that I'm, completely responsible for as far as the security of that aircraft and that presidential asset. So anywhere there is one of those helicopters, there's always some of us protecting that asset. And then, of course, anybody who's on the aircraft whenever we're flying or doing anything, then that's our responsibility as well. But yeah, I just protect that aircraft and everything that's associated with that aircraft.
Well, awesome. Thank you for your service, and thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah, no problem, brother.
So we're going to start off the show by having you talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial story and what you've learned through your business, Fiberlight.
Yeah, so I started my first business when I was 15 years old in high school with my best friend. And that just really planted this seed that, being my own boss and working for myself and generating my own income and being responsible for myself was something that I really wanted to do, the way I wanted to live my life. And I think, starting at such a young age, there were so many benefits to it. And I think we'll talk about a lot of that here during the podcast. But that seed that was planted in me was like magnified, in my opinion, as opposed to me becoming going to college and like starting business after I was older. I just feel like it really planted a seed in me starting so young. So I did join the Marine Corps right after high school. So that, essentially shut my business down, which for some reason I thought I could still run my business while I was in the Marine Corps, which is completely stupid. But I went off to the Marine Corps. My business partner, my best friend, still to this day my best friend, who I started that company with, he went off to college. And he went and got a business degree. And I went to the Marine Corps. And then after the Marine Corps, I jumped right back into it. The whole time I was in the Marine Corps, I just was like chomping at the bit to start a business. But I wanted to be dedicated to my job that I had in the Marine Corps. So I didn't let anything distract me there. But as soon as I got home, I started, businesses back up again. I'd just been starting businesses and selling businesses and, just shutting down the ones that aren't successful type of businesses. But it's just been pretty much my whole life ever since then. That was 22 years ago when I started my first business.
Wow. That's a long time to be involved with business ownership and entrepreneurship. That entrepreneurial spirit, I feel like a lot of people are almost born with it, and they just have a desire to have a handle on their life in a certain way that not everybody has a desire for. And I feel that starting up your own business when you're young and taking steps towards your dreams is a really good thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I'll just add to that really quick. And I think we'll talk about this a little bit later as well. But when I started the company that I currently have now, I created a product out of waste, out of a wood mill. And there's a wood mill down the street from my house. And it was kind of just crazy how it all happened. But The concept and idea and everything is so simple. And there's people that have been working at that wood mill for 40 years. There's a guy working there for 46 years.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I'm not even joking you. And they've been doing the same thing at that wood mill for, as long as these people have been working there.
Mm-hmm.
And when I took the waste and I turned it into the product that I sell, like, I can't even tell you how many of those people were like, how did you think of that? Like, I've been working here my whole entire life and I would have never thought of that. And it's, like, I don't know what to tell them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how I thought of it. It's just something that happened in my brain, like, that's just the way I'm designed. So
It's really cool how everybody has their own kind of unique creative aspect, and some people just come up with ideas and creating things like that's outstanding. And it's just something kind of special. That's awesome. So what inspired you to start your first business when you were 15?
yeah. So this is kind of a silly story, but it's true. And so it is what it is. My best friend, David Leroy, who I talked to him yesterday. We texted early this morning. We don't live close to each other anymore, but we're still super close. And he's a business mentor of mine as well. Mm-hmm. Having gone to college and having that education that I don't have, I pick his brain about things all the time. But long story short, his mom had to move because they were renting a house that they lived in when Dave started high school, and the owner of the house sold the house and she had to move. And she owned a property that was like out of town. It was like 2 hours away. And instead of her like buying a new house like renting a new house, she's just going to spend the next couple months at her own property and whatever. So Dave was going to have to go to a different high school, and his mom didn't want to do that. And so she's trying to figure out what to do. Both my parents were cops. And so, my friend's parents trusted me and my family because both my parents were cops. And Dave was my best friend, and I didn't want to see him leave. So I told him that he could just live at my house. And of course we thought that was a great idea, like having your best friend like actually live at your house as opposed to just coming to stay in the night or whatever. He was going to live there. And so when we brought it up to his mom, she was like, "Oh, that's not a bad idea. What do your parents think about it?" Well, my parents loved Dave, so they were like, "Yeah, whatever. Of course he could stay here." So me and him became roommates, and our freshman year, like towards the end of our freshman year, and so that summer we went to a high school that was gigantic. It was like 7,000 students in that high school, and so as a freshman in high school, all you want to do is try to just figure out how to be popular and how not to be the guy that everybody picks on or whatever. And so we're like, what can that's what we talk about every night before we went to bed is just what can we do to be the most popular kids in school? And we came up with the idea that if we started a DJ company and we became DJs, then we would not only would we be invited to every party and all that type of stuff, but we would be the ones like playing the music at all the parties. Like we'd be the ones that everyone calls to like help them set the parties up and stuff. And so we just thought it was a brilliant idea. So we just did what we needed to do to like legitimately start the business. We raised capital. We bought all the equipment and everything. We even had like radio commercials on the radio. We were 15-year-old kids doing 40th wedding anniversaries for people.
Holy cow.
We basically contracted with every single high school and junior high school in our county, in the county south of us and the county north of us to do all of their high school dances because our sales pitch was like, we are the same age as the students. So we know what they want. They will have the best experience at this dance with us DJing it. And like everyone bought it. And we were making more money than our teachers were. And it was just crazy. I mean, it's a silly thing, right? But we actually pulled it off. So yeah, that's the story.
That's amazing. First off, the story behind that business is just a really creative idea.
Yeah.
For being 15 and just coming up with that kind of an idea and then actually going and taking the right steps in order to make it like be an official business where you're actually bringing in revenue and making money. That's really, really impressive for two 15-year-olds.
Yeah, we were lucky because Dave's mom owns her business. She's owned it for like 50 years.
Okay.
And so we went to her and we were like, we want to start a business. And she's like, okay. And she was super supportive of Dave and anything that he did. She would support the heck out of him. but she also was going to make sure that she wasn't doing it for him. So that's what she told us. She's like, if you guys are serious about this, I will tell you how to do everything. Like, I'll tell you how to, what you need to do. You need to go get a business license. You need to file a fictitious name statement. You need to go get your bank account. You need to go and do this and to do that and get insurance and all this stuff. And she's like, I'm going to tell you what you have to do, but I'm not doing any of it for you. If you guys are actually serious about doing this, you're going to go down to the county building and go get the paperwork to file your business license. You're going to go down to this other building and go file this. And if you need signatures on anything, come bring it to me and I'll sign it since I'm the adult, and we'll create a 3-way partnership is what we did. So she made us do everything. So we learned the entire process of like how to start a business. That was a huge help for us, because if she would have done everything for us, I don't think, well, we obviously wouldn't have learned anything,
Yeah. That's awesome that you had somebody there that could take you through the steps, and they didn't just do it for you. And because going through the motions yourself and putting in the reps is really, it's the only way to learn how entrepreneurship is, I believe. So how did you learn about what it takes to start and run a successful business?
That's funny, because that's how I learned, right, from that, what I just talked about. But that was a service-based business, and I've learned an unbelievable amount of stuff over the last 3 years that I've had my current business, because my current business is a product, we manufacture and we sell retail a product. So that's the first time I've ever done that. And I've had to learn how to do retail, which retail is a tricky monster. And so every business prior to this current business that I own has all been service-based businesses. There's definitely a ton of differences. But yeah, I mean, the basis of it comes from that experience of starting that first business when we were 15, and we were forced to do it all ourselves to prove how serious we were about it. And, as 2 young kids with all this passion behind us to want to be successful and be cool kids, there was nothing going to stop us. And so it forced us to learn, because like we weren't going to be handed this thing, we had to figure it out. So
That's really cool. So speaking about a product-based business, what has been the most rewarding part for you about owning a product-based business?
The coolest thing, and this might sound stupid. I don't want it to sound like, I don't know, the way it's probably going to come across, but there's this brand recognition thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's been the coolest thing, because that's something that's different from all the other businesses that I've owned. There was never anything glamorous or cool about anything I've done before. But with this, you start building the brand and you start getting this brand recognition across the market. And then in a way, you become like a little bit of a rock star in that little industry. Think about like brands that you're a fan of, like Elon Musk.
Oh yeah.
He's a freaking rock star. You know what I'm saying? Like there's all these big business people that are not famous because they were in the entertainment industry. They're famous because they built this brand that you're such a huge fan of. And so that's this thing that I'm experiencing now. So when we go to outdoor shows, like industry trade shows and stuff like that, every third person is like, "Oh, you guys are Fiberlight." Like, where's Justin? I'll be like, "I'm Justin." Oh my gosh, like it's weird. It's cool. It makes you feel good.
All right, cool. So what steps did you take to build a brand around Fiberlight?
Yeah, so that was important to me, because when I started this, again, it was the first time I've ever done this before. So I took it slow. That first year was way slower than I would recommend, or that I think anybody's normal path would be, because I needed to dissect this thing and figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And so I needed to make sure that my product could be recognizable in the market. I needed like cohesive packaging with something that I could scale. Something I could scale through like different SKUs, product variations and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I needed and I wanted someone to instantly be able to look at it and know, oh, that's Fiberlight. Just like, the big brand too, you instantly look at them and you know exactly what it is. So that was important to me. And that took me a while to kind of wrap my head around. And then I needed to figure out how to get in front of my market with something that was recognizable. And so I was slow to do that. I initially launched on Amazon only.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a domain And e-commerce as well was, that whole package is something that I had never done before. So I just had to figure this thing out. So I had bought a domain, which is fiberlightfs.com, but I was afraid to have a website. I knew nothing about e-commerce. And so I was like, well, I'll just put the products up on Amazon. And if you go to fiberlightfs.com, then it'll just take you straight to my Amazon page. Instead of it going to my own website, it just went straight to Amazon, straight to my product page. And at that time, I only sold one product.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that for a little while, but I got tired of just Amazon's back end is unbelievably clunky, and Amazon takes a lot of money from you as far as like fees and things like that. So I wanted to be able to, the biggest thing is I wanted to be able to capture my customers, right? Amazon owns all the customers. So like when somebody buys something from Amazon, I don't get any of their information. I don't get their email address. I'm not able to contact them after the sale or market to them because Amazon owns them. So I wanted to be able to start building my email list and start building my marketing list and retaining my own customers. And so then finally I just got tired of it, and I was like, okay, I gotta figure out Shopify and figure out how to make my own e-commerce website. And so I did that. But back on track with the story, I think those were my initial steps, and the things that were important to me was, making it recognizable, cohesive packaging to establish this, a brand that was recognizable, and then learn how to get in front of my audience and interact with the market. Social has been huge, like social media, and then one of the biggest things, industry trade shows. I'm bullish on industry trade shows. I think that if you're not doing industry trade shows, you are absolutely failing. You have got to do that. And then figuring out how to interact with influencers. And so all of those things is what I've done to be able to grow this brand. And we could talk about any one of those aspects, social media, industry trade shows, influencers, because all of those things are drastically important.
Yeah. Real quick, just back to the beginning of the story, you said that your process for the first year was really slow. Would you say that going a little bit too slow is better than going a little bit too fast?
Yes. I've got to, this is my thesis. This is if I only have one thing to tell an entrepreneur, this is what I will tell them. So I've got this theory, right? It's called the ugly baby theory. Now, we've all seen somebody has a baby and it's just an ugly baby. You know what I'm saying? And then there's some people that have their baby's just beautiful, but there's some of those people that their baby is just straight up ugly. And the reality is, I don't intend on this to be funny. I intend on this to hit home. And this is something that everyone will understand. Those people with the ugly babies, they have no idea their baby's ugly because love doesn't allow them to see that, right? And in fact, a lot of the people with the ugly babies are the ones that are saying, oh my gosh, my baby's so beautiful, like most often. If you ever pay attention to this, you'll notice this. And of course, everyone's going to agree with them. No one's going to tell them their baby is ugly, right? So this is what happens with new businesses and startups and new products and all this stuff. I created the product that I sell, right?
Yep.
And I loved it. I thought it was amazing. But I was absolutely aware of the fact that I need to make sure that I don't have an ugly baby. The only way for me to do that is to send it away to as many outdoor people, as many people in my market that I can trust, that I can, I know will give me their opinion. I wanted to send it to people that I didn't even know, that had no interest in telling me good stuff about it, that would just tell me the truth. And I would just send it off. I would get it in front of people to be able to touch it and feel it and use it. And then I would demand their feedback. And in that first year, without even trying at all I was trying to do was to discover and give me a truthful answer if my baby was ugly or if it was beautiful. I sold 36,000 cans of my product that first year.
Oh my.
without even trying. But I was inadvertently, with my hell-bent determination to make sure I was not blinded by the love that I have for my product, and to make sure that the product was a good product by everybody else, not by my determination. I was putting it in front of people. I was talking to people about it. I was sending it out left and right. I was doing all the stuff that you would normally want to be doing, right? But I was doing it for a completely different reason. All of my dreams came true, right? I
Yeah.
found out that it's not ugly. I inadvertently sold 36,000 pieces.
That is amazing. And I really like that thesis, the ugly baby theory. And I see how that it's totally a thing. And I think one of the problems with that is people don't necessarily want to know the truth. A lot of people are afraid of what the truth is. So they go looking for positive feedback from people that they know they'll get positive feedback from. And
Yeah.
they're afraid to go actually ask people who will give them the truth.
Yeah, I have a friend. I mentor a lot of people, probably more than I should,
Mm-hmm.
and I opened my doors to basically anybody who wants to ask me a question about business. And I've got a couple of people that they have the ugliest babies I've ever seen in my life, and I try to tell them, I mean, I hold nothing back, and they are so blinded by this idea that their business is never getting off the ground, and I don't know what to tell them. I mean, I've told them everything. So don't let that happen. That's my biggest thing. Like, don't be blinded by how much you love what you're doing. You need everyone else to tell you how much they love it, as far as like determining if it's going to be a good product or service in the industry.
It's really good advice. So, what's your favorite part about having an idea, turning it into a product, and then taking it to market?
So I'm a humongous fan of the experience as a whole. Every time I've done this, although this is my first, I've taken many products to market within my company now, right? We started out with the first product and now we have an entire product line. So I've taken many products to market now with this company. But like even before, so all of my businesses before were service-based businesses, and essentially I took my service to market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of ways, it's the same thing. But that's my favorite thing about it is that every experience I've had in bringing something to market, whether a product or a service, there's always something different about it. So I enjoy that experience of learning or experiencing the differences and like being able to say, oh, I've experienced that now. Like I could like check a box, or write it on my imaginary resume or something, like it's just another thing that I've done, another thing that I could share with somebody else, another thing that I can maybe give some insight on,
Mm-hmm.
that specific type of situation. So I really enjoy that. I'm experiencing something right now so I invented a product. I can't talk about it a whole lot,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, because it's not released to the market yet. We're still in prototyping phases, but this is the first time this has happened where I think it's also the magnitude in it because it's such a big deal. So I invented this thing 2.5 years ago, and I've been working on product development and engineering and design and all this stuff with a gigantic design team over the last 2.5 years. And I saw for the first time just like 3 days ago a mock-up sketch from like the design team's mind put down on paper that was essentially transferred from my mind, right? I spoke to them about what I saw it being like, and then they received that information, they processed it in their mind, and then they put it down on paper onto a sketch. And this was an early rendition of it, so I mean there's things that have changed since then, but I've been so busy with everything else, like I just let the design team do their thing. And so anyway, this is the first picture I've seen of it outside of my own mind. And it was probably one of the coolest things that has ever happened to me. I'm unbelievably excited about it. And so that's really freaking cool too. But I just think the whole experience as a whole is my favorite thing about having an idea, turning it into a product, and then taking it to market. It's fun. It's challenging. It's extremely rewarding when you realize that this was a hit and that it's a beautiful baby. And I've had several products that we've sat and we've taken time and we've designed and we've packaged and we've done all this stuff, and then we realize this is ugly, bro. Like, and then we just we shut it down, and we either released it and we take it off the website, or we just never take it to market, So I mean, I've had it all happen, but yeah, just the experience as a whole.
All right, yeah. And back to what you were saying about every time that you release a new product that you are learning something new and you can add something to your imaginary resume. I think that's a really great thing. You're just able to add something more to your toolkit, and I can totally resonate with that each step that you take, each new thing you do, that you're building up a knowledge base to help yourself in the future and help others as well.
Yeah.
What was your biggest fear when you started your first business, and how did you overcome that?
So for me, fortunately, I was a kid, and kids have no fear, and that was absolutely true. With that experience as a 15-year-old starting this business, we were being told what we needed to do. There was no reason for us not to go do it as far as starting the business. And then once we started the business and we were in business and we had all the equipment and we had the ability to do these things, we started approaching all of the high schools. And we found out that the people that make the decisions on who DJs the school dances is the parents at the PTA meeting, right? Mm-hmm. So then we found out at this one junior high school that was down the street from my house. We were freshmen in high school. This was a junior high. We found out that they had the PTA meetings on like the second Tuesday night of every month in this bungalow in the back behind the school at like 7:00 at night. So we found that out from somebody. I don't remember how we found that out, but we did. And so then we marked our calendars and we showed up to that meeting as two kids, and we had hired a photographer to come take pictures of us with our like fog machine and our lights and like all the setup, and we were standing there like looking cool, and we had a photographer take pictures of that. And so we had this whole kind of media kit basically in like a folder that had these pictures and it had like letters of recommendation, all this stuff. So we opened up this bungalow door. The lights were on. We opened up the door. We kind of poked our heads in. There's parents sitting in there, and they were talking, and they kind of noticed that we were looking in the door, and so they stopped talking. They looked at us. They're like, "Can we help you?" And we're like, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, you can." And then we just jumped inside that meeting, like hijacked the meeting, and we left the meeting with the rest of the dances for the school year.
That is a bold move.
Yeah, the only reason why we were able to do that is because we had no fear. Mm-hmm. Like, we were too stupid to realize what to be afraid of. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were completely blinded by our passion to like see this thing succeed and be like successful teenage business owners. And so because of that experience, I very rarely have fear. There's times where maybe some people would categorize it as fear, but I rationalize it into like just me not knowing what to do in this situation or whatever. And then I very quickly figure out how to, like, who do I need to call to help me figure this out? Or what do I need to learn to help me get past this little speed bump or whatever? I don't necessarily ever see it as fear. Sometimes I'm nervous about certain things when I'm about ready to go into a big meeting or something, but oh man, this is my boat and I'm in control of this thing. And I very rarely have any fear. But I do believe it's because of how it all started at 15 years old. Like, fear and starting a business or running a business or building a business, those two things never happen. So like, I don't see how there's actually a place for fear in running a business.
Yeah. And I feel that fear is almost a feeling, and it's just about how you perceive it. Just however you perceive what fear is, fear in quotes, is going to determine what you do with it. And I think that if you feel a little nervous or a little fearful about something, that's a sign that you're going in the right direction, and it's going to help you grow as a person. That's kind of my perspective.
Yeah.
So you stated that most people want to be entrepreneurs, but most never end up starting a profitable business. How can the aspiring entrepreneurs listening to our conversation right now ensure that they have the highest chance of success?
Yeah. So first thing, you got to get rid of the fear, right?
Yeah.
Because like, you know what? So I have this thing that I invented sitting on my like shelf. I look at it every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Great little invention. But you know what? For so long, it was something that I hated because maybe I was afraid. I don't know. It just never happened. I wasn't smart enough to make it happen, or I did not have the experience or knowledge. And this is at the time where I'm in the middle of owning service-based businesses, and I invented a product. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I did not have the knowledge or know-how to figure out how to navigate that thing. And so that product, now I don't ever want that product to be released. I want that product to continue to sit on my shelf because it's my reminder that I can't let anything stop me, right? Mm-hmm. So fear, I think like fear has this paralyzing attribute, right? Like it will stop you in your tracks, right? So I think that a lot of people, and the other aspect of this is like being an entrepreneur is kind of a cool thing to do these days. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, right? I think majority of them are all like fake entrepreneurs. They say that they're an entrepreneur. They have the aspirations to be an entrepreneur, but they've never actually started a profitable business. And then, so the reason for that, I believe, is there's something that stops them from like accomplishing it, right? Whether it's lack of knowledge or fear or just straight laziness, like they want to do this, but they don't want to put the work in. So the reality is, and this is sometimes hard for some people to hear, but starting a business is quite unbelievably easy. If you just break down to the simplest form, okay? Like we all know you obviously have to have something that people want to buy, right? Like, I mean, in the simplest form, and like the process of like doing all the legal stuff and like starting a business, it's super easy. Go to LegalZoom.com and you can start a business in 10 minutes for $150. You know what I mean? Like it's really not that hard, okay? So then you have to figure out how to get people to buy your product and how to get it in front of people and all this stuff. But I mean, another reason why starting a business these days isn't very hard is because the technology that we have. Like if you need to figure something out, just go to Google and figure it out, you know, or watch a YouTube video and somebody will show you how to do it. I think about back in the day when Google and YouTube didn't exist, you know, it's a totally different world. So like, that's why I say it's extremely easy to start a business today. I'm definitely not saying it's extremely easy to make money by starting a business today, because that's a very different conversation. But to go and start a business, like you go do it in a matter of minutes. It's not a big deal. The reason why, you know, I said that there's a lot of people that want to be entrepreneurs, but most never end up starting a profitable business, because the act of starting the business is super easy. Anybody could do it. If you don't even get to that part of actually starting the business, well, like you need to go do something else, because like that part's not the hard part.
Uh-huh.
And then, you know, with all the social media and all the technology and things that we have today, and the abilities to drive traffic to your website or drive traffic to whatever you do, you know, there's a really not a lot of excuses, but there's a lot of people that say that they're an entrepreneur, but have a boatload of excuses. Just don't have any fear. If you want the highest chance of success and like actually becoming an entrepreneur and building a business, don't be afraid. Just figure out what you have to go do and go do it. The way you figure it out is by Google, YouTube, asking other business people, getting mentors. Mentors is huge. I mean, I think you think back to my first business when I was 15, my best friend's mom, her name is Cheryl, by the way. She essentially was my first business mentor. And, you know, she taught me a ton. And so mentors are great, man. Go get a mentor. Educate yourself. And you have to just do it. You've got to keep moving and just go start the business and go learn how to make a product and go learn how to drive traffic and sell a product. So it's just a matter of doing it. I never stop working. I'm an absolute workaholic. I'm not saying that that's the best way to do it, but that's how I have started all of these businesses, is I just do it. I just think of the idea and then I just don't stop until I do it.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice there, is that you just have to do it. I mean, there's no other way around it. I mean, if you're going to get it done, it has to get done, and you just have to jump into it. Well, since we're about halfway through the episode, we're going to take a moment for a brief advertisement. Do you see yourself as someone who wants to learn more to help start or grow your business? Well, reading is one of the most effective and easiest ways to learn from others who have been in the game for years. Consider this. Steve Jobs was asked if he could have one superpower, what would it be? He said he would want to be able to read books faster. Now, I'm going to fill you in on how you can do exactly just that and get started for absolutely free. Get started with Audible.com. Audible is a massive online library of over 180,000 audiobooks. The great thing about audiobooks is that you can listen to them anytime, while you're driving, while you're commuting, while you're at the gym, or any other time that you can think of. When you sign up for Audible's free 1-month trial, you'll get your first book absolutely free. Even if you cancel your subscription and don't pay for your second month, you still get to keep your free book and access it anytime that you would like. Now, you have absolutely nothing to lose, so go sign up for Audible.com and get your free book. The link is in the show notes or at studentbuiltstartups.com/audible. Now let's get back to the episode. So we're going to move on to the next part of the interview here. We're going to talk a little bit about the startup process and what's involved with that. So is anybody able to start a business, or do you have to have something special about you?
I truly believe it's both. Like, I think anybody can start a business, but I also think that you do need to have something special.
Mm-hmm.
Like having entrepreneurial vision and insight, And the reality is just not everybody has that. And so that's kind of like the thing that you do need. I do think you could learn it though. So, I mean, at the same time, I do think anybody could do it. I'm not a big fan of the idea of like somebody having an excuse that like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. That's the reason why you can't do it, because you just said you can't do it. Like I also believe that like if you just put your head down and work hard, like you absolutely could do it. Because like I was saying before, the reality of starting a business is not very hard at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then the roadmap that which you have to follow or that you need to go through is actually not, there's not a whole lot to it. I mean, so if you're starting a technology company and you're trying to cure the, disease or whatever, bro, that's going to be hard. That's a hard business, so I'm not really talking about that, but there's some businesses that are probably very difficult to maneuver and bring to market and sell. But I mean, forget about all those details. The process is the same. And we're actually going to talk about these different things here in a little bit, but I think anybody could do it if you absolutely wanted to. And I do think that there's some things that you either need to naturally have or you need to be able to figure out how to learn those things.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. So for the student entrepreneurs listening, what would you say is the minimum amount of money needed to start a product-based business?
I think that I'm a unique case in this thing, which is actually weird. It's kind of my forte. I start businesses with very little money. I don't know why. I don't know how I do it or why I do it. I started my current business with $200. We sell hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's crazy. Holy cow.
Yeah. But here's my big thing about capital. Well, number one, you need it. Not every business that you're going to start, you're going to be able to do for $200. And that's just me developing the product and like packaging it and having a completed, packaged, fully ready to go product for less than $200. That doesn't include all of the other things that are absolutely necessary, which is, just straight up working capital to be able to build your inventory and do all that stuff. All the, marketing, social stuff that you're going to be doing, driving traffic to your website, all that stuff costs money. And that was not included in that $200 that I mentioned that I started this business with. But the reality is that, I had a product that I was ready to sell for less than $200. But my biggest thing is I do take this Gary Vee approach. I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. I've been watching him ever since the very beginning of Wine Library TV, which is back in like 2005. But I believe in everything that he says in regards to this specific thing. Is like, I'm not a big fan of debt to start a business, but I also understand that some businesses, like highly technical, highly advanced businesses, you absolutely have to get a loan or raise capital because they're just too dang expensive. I don't have any experience with that type of business, so I'm not going to talk about that. But I'm not a big fan of starting a business in debt. I think that you should live with nothing. Don't go out and eat. Don't drive a fancy car. Don't buy a house you don't need. Don't buy clothes and Rolexes and things, all these things that you don't need. And go get a job. Work hard. Work overtime. Right? Go get 2 jobs, whatever the case is. And then just put everything into what you need to get the business going and all your capital. So that's how I've always believed to do it. I'm not from like a rich family I've always just worked really hard to get the money that I need to be able to start a business. And then kind of the snowball thing happens, right? So I start a business, I build it up, I sell it, and now I'm in a different situation, right? So, but I still, even though I did all that, and I've now owned and sold 6 businesses, having this one now, I still only started this company with $200, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a cheap ass. I don't know, but my family depends on me to make money, and I support them with that. And I've got my wife and 2 kids, and that's all I focus on. I don't focus on spending the money. I just focus on making the money.
Yeah, you said some really awesome stuff there. I totally agree with you that when you're starting a business, if you're putting in the work to raise the capital yourself and you're working overtime, doing jobs on the side, trying to make money for this, that you're going to have a lot more invested emotionally as well into this product and business. And you're probably more likely to just be more invested in this business that you're starting as well.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's the way you should do it.
So next, I'll have you walk the audience through the main steps in the startup process and what each one entails.
Yeah, I struggle with this one a little bit. Just because starting a service-based business is what I've done for so long, and then this one now is obviously a retail product. And I also feel like my processes are different than most for some reason. With not, with creating these businesses that hardly cost, don't cost very much money to start or whatever. I just think it's unique and different and something that's like my little thing. So anyway, I think the step number one is mindset. Like you have got to get your mindset straight. I don't believe that step number one is an idea or like the idea that you have to have like this thing, like something that's never been done before, or like, I don't think that that's the thing. And I've got a good analogy for this, like t-shirt companies, right? We've been wearing and making and selling and buying t-shirts forever. And then you get this company like Grunt Style that comes into the market, and they are a bunch of veterans that make, veteran type swag. And they're unbelievably successful.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't come up with some fancy new idea. Like it's not, they're selling t-shirts, it's something that we've been buying for as forever. So that's why I don't think that this some awesome idea that no one's ever thought of is required to be step number one. I think it's mindset. Like you have to figure out what it is that you want to do and what it is that you want to sell or what it is you want to make or whatever the case is. And then you have to figure out how you're going to differentiate yourself in the market. Same thing with my product with Fiberlight. We make different fire starting tools for camping, hiking, hunting, and stuff like that. It's kind of a weird thing, but the reality is that there's an unbelievable amount of people that go camping, hiking, hunting, and the outdoor market is gigantic. Okay, and so great little market. We sell awesome products. And my fire starter is not the first fire starter on the market. They've been making fire since caveman times. Like this is not something new. So I don't think that that's required for step number one. I think that step number one has to be mindset. Like you have to figure out how it is that you're going to be different and you're going to make yourself stand out in the market. The step number two is all the things that come next, like product development, manufacturing, distribution, like setting up all your infrastructure and stuff like that, like how you're going to have your product run, like your business run. Step number three, like if you're going to be selling whatever it is, like if it's a product as opposed to a service. But I mean, step number three would be like website.
Yep.
The big thing here, although the idea of the word website seems stupid in these steps because like, of course you're going to have a website, but this is the thing that absolutely drives me insane. The amount of people that think that once you just go buy a domain name and you actually can go onto Google and type in your domain name and hit enter and it goes to your website. The amount of people that think that once you've accomplished that, like you've done it, like you're in business, like you're going to make millions is scary because I don't think people realize like how many websites there are on the world. And the reality is that if you go and create a website, but you tell nobody about it, nobody is ever going to show up on your website accidentally. They don't even know it exists, right? The computer like algorithms and all that stuff have no idea that it exists. And so like Google's never going to take you to that website, and it's never going to take anybody to that website to go buy anything. So like you've got to figure out how to drive traffic, and how to get people to become aware of your product. And it's the same thing as Amazon. You put a product on Amazon, nobody's going to buy it. I mean, the market is just too big. Yeah. If I put fire starters on Amazon and didn't do anything else, no one would ever buy my product. Amazon would never show my product to any customers looking for fire starters. It's just how it works. So step number three, I put website there, but more so everything associated with how to drive traffic, how to sell online, basically. And then another thing that's drastically important is, in a product-based thing, if you ever have a desire to want to sell in big box retail or just sell outside of your website, then trade shows. Trade shows are huge. Even if you're not planning on going to big box retail, trade shows are huge. There's industry-specific trade shows for pretty much every type of industry that you could ever imagine. figure out what those are and go to them. Go to them as a vendor to where you could display your product so that all the entire audience can look at it. Go to it as just as a person just showing up and going to the show, because you'll meet a lot of people. I used to think that trade shows were important to me because I would sell a lot of product there and make 10 grand in just one weekend or whatever, which was nice. But I became more aware of how important the relationships that I have built from the people and the big companies and things that I've met at trade shows. Trade shows, I think, are so underrated. It's not even funny, man. Because of all of the technology these days and like social media and all this stuff, like that's what everyone talks about. And that stuff's important, because that's what makes the world go round. But trade shows are so powerful, man. I don't even know how to tell you how powerful trade shows are. But we try to do one trade show a month. This year's a little bit different. We just did International Sportsman's Expo in Sacramento last month. And then we don't have another show until June, which is Outdoor Retailer Show in Colorado. And the main reason for that is because why we don't have a show until then is just because we're releasing our new product in June at the Outdoor Retailer Show.
Oh, okay.
And we have a lot of work to do between now and then for that show. So we're not trying to be distracted by other shows right now. But dude, trade shows are huge, man.
Yeah, I could totally see how trade shows could be a huge benefit, because getting your product into people's hands and allowing them to have access to a tangible product is going to be just thousands and thousands of times more effective than just seeing an ad on social media and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and the reality is that buyers for big box retailers, I'll tell you these very simple facts. They don't answer their phone. They do not return emails. You'll never be able to contact them, okay? Even though you could find their information online somewhere, you can't contact them. You could try all you want. I've done it. It just doesn't work. The way you contact them is you go to trade shows. All the buyers are at the trade shows. So if getting into big box retail is something that you're expecting to do with your business, then you absolutely have to go to trade shows. You have to be a vendor there, and you have to wait for that person to just walk in front of your booth, because that's the only reason why they're there, is just to see new products on the market and see products that they've never seen before. They could touch them and they could feel them. They could, look at them and talk to you and learn about your company and get a really good snapshot of what you guys are doing and stuff like that. And then that's how you get into big box retail stores, man.
That's some really good info right there. Thanks for sharing that. So if somebody listening right now has an idea and they want to use that idea to start a business, what is the first thing you think they should do?
Oh, I love this question. So the first thing that they need to do, they obviously need to figure out a handful of logistics. They need to figure out how they're going to make it. If they're able to make it themselves and kind of start production and do production themselves, they need to figure out how they're going to package it, what the packaging and everything is going to look like. Retail packaging is a monster. The next time you go into the store and you're on an aisle that has pegs, has some pegs and some shelves, and there's products sitting on them. Mm-hmm. The length, the height, the width, how the products sit, all of that stuff is very specifically built out to maximize that aisle inside that store. This is not just grabbing products and just sticking it where it fits. That doesn't happen. I actually have to design and develop different size packaging for different stores that have different desired sizes.
That's crazy.
So packaging is unbelievably important. Hanging stuff is easier to get into retail than stuff that sits on a shelf. So you need to hang it. So anyway, those logistics things, those are simple things that you should be able to figure out pretty quickly. If you could do it all yourself, then that's simple. If you need to have it manufactured at a manufacturing facility, then that's a little bit more difficult. But you just go contact manufacturing facilities and go get it done. Then you also need to figure out how are you going to sell it, right? Is the plan just to go into big box retail? Is the plan to just sell it online? Is the plan to just sell it on Amazon? Stuff like that. And then once you figure that out, then determining on how you plan on selling it, you need to figure out how you're going to drive traffic. Because once again, nobody knows your website exists or your product is even there for sale, because there's too many websites. Nobody knows that. So you have to drive traffic. So you have to use your social media, build a brand, start building an audience, and drive traffic to your Amazon page, to your website, to, your other social medias, and start building that audience. And then, once you built the audience and you're driving them to your website, then it all just turns into like a well-oiled machine. Everything just happens automatically. So I don't know if there's a single first thing to do. Those are kind of like the rundown of everything you should do, I guess. But first thing, you have to figure out. So my biggest thing, or the first thing you should do, is figure out if you have an ugly baby or not.
Okay. That's a good way to start off.
Yeah.
So after someone has started their business, what factors do you think play a role in the business's future success?
Well, I guess I'll just talk about my personal experience.
Okay.
So like I've started 6 businesses. There's usually the same reason why I've gotten rid of them. All of them are the same. There's 2 reasons. One, either it wasn't profitable. I couldn't figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't as good of an idea as I thought it was. It was an ugly baby, or whatever the case is. So shut those down, get rid of those. The other thing, when I end up selling a business that is profitable, and it's like, well, I could have just kept doing that and been doing just fine. I got bored. I just got tired of it. And it sounds weird, but that's just the truth, man. I just got tired of it. So I think, hopefully you have the ability to understand if it's something that you love and you're passionate about. I think the other reason why I got tired of them is because they were all service-based businesses. So for me to go make money, I had to go perform a service. And I was not the best at teaching, because my services were always like marketable. Those businesses would grow fast because of me, because there was this little spark, or this little certain level of like my personality or whatever that made it all that was the glue that held it all together. And so I had a hard time hiring people to go do my job and do it the way that I would do it if I was there. Like, duplicating yourself is impossible. Although, if you could do it, you would, but you just can't. And so I had a hard time dealing with all that stuff. So usually that's how it went. Like, I was building these businesses, making a ton of money and providing service to a lot of customers, but it was me just working my brains off to go do it. And then I just would eventually get tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I could never get over that hump of trusting and hiring employees to go do the same service and provide the same, quality and level and stuff like that I would do myself, because they're not the business owner. They're just looking for a paycheck. And so I could never get over that. So that's usually what would happen. But there's a big difference with this company and, being a product manufacturer and selling and all this stuff. Big difference. I don't ever find myself getting tired of this one. I think we will sell it eventually, but not for any of those reasons. Just because it'll be just enough money for me to be done for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's as good as I got for that answer, buddy.
That's really good. Thanks. So, if you have one other tip that you could share about starting and running a successful business, that would be awesome if you could share that.
Yeah, I would say I'm fortunate. I have a business partner. I started this business 3 years ago, and I built it. Everything was going nice, but I realized that if I had a partner, a good business partner, we could blow this thing up. So I brought John, my business partner, on in May of last year, and that's exactly what's happened. It is just blowing up, and I'm fortunate because I got lucky, and John, he's an amazing business partner. I could not ask for a better business partner. So I'm not necessarily recommending everybody needs to have a business partner, because I don't believe that at all. I think business partners can be the end of a business as well. But consider the idea of how much more you could get done with a little bit of help, and then maybe look into that.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to the last section of the interview, the Fast 5 section. So our first question is, what is the most valuable class, course, or learning experience that you've had?
Yeah, so I didn't go to college. I'm high school educated, and then I joined the Marine Corps. And so I think the Marine Corps as a whole, it's given me this adapt and overcome. I know it sounds stupid and totally cliche and all this stuff, but the reality is in that environment, nothing's going to go the way you want it to. The Marine Corps, the life, I don't want to say the Marine Corps sucks because I love the Marine Corps, but life in the Marine Corps is quite difficult. And many times it sucks really bad. And you're just going to have to freaking get over it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is, man. You know, and you've got to adapt and you've got to overcome and you just got to keep plugging along. And so, like, that was not just a strategy of something that I would pull out of my back pocket whenever I needed it. That was something that you lived every single day. You know, and you don't expect these very unfortunate or uncomfortable or just freaking horrible situations to be what you're about to walk into. But then when you do walk into it, you've just got to figure it out. And so that's a mindset that you live with every single day, and it becomes a part of you, and it's something that you can't stop and you can't turn it off. And I think, hands down, it's the best experience of my life. If I was to go back, I would do it all over again. Every single day, things come up, big business decisions, lots of money involved here, there, whatever. It's like just another day, you know? And we just figure it out and we move on. And either it was great, it wasn't great. If it wasn't great, we learned something from it. Try not to make that happen again. And we just keep, you know, banging along. So that'd be that.
All right. Awesome. Question number 2, what is one book that you would recommend?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not a big reader. I do a lot of Audible. So like all the Gary Vaynerchuk stuff is good. Sometimes he, you know, can be a little overwhelming. So if you're not into Gary V, I get it. But Malcolm Gladwell has some good stuff. Outliers was good. But yeah, I don't have like one that I hang my hat on.
Gotcha. Audible. I haven't ever used Audible before, but I've heard a lot of great things about it.
Yeah, I turned my Audible account on like, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And then, so I'll get messages when I have like, I think at 6 credits, they start sending you messages telling you need to spend your credits. And then when I get tired of receiving those messages, I'll go into Audible and I'll just go like to bestsellers or like, I don't know, whatever I'm feeling like, I'll just download 7 books right there. And then I'll wait another 7 months and then do the same thing again. I've got like a gigantic library of books in Audible.
That's pretty cool. So what is one business tool that you would recommend?
Shopify.
Shopify. All right. I've heard a lot of good things about Shopify. I've heard it's easy to use and really good at e-commerce stuff.
Yeah, it's an insane tool that I can't express to you enough. That hands down best e-commerce platform. If you're looking to sell something online, create a Shopify account. You don't have to know anything about computers or, you know, it's so easy to use and it's a great website.
Awesome. So how do you schedule your time and plan ahead?
The reality is I never stop working. I have an excellent support team around me that allows me to be like a major workaholic. And this is not for everyone. You know, this isn't the lifestyle I recommend for anybody. But I have no problem with it. It doesn't bother me at all. It's kind of like what's required for me. So my support team helps me as far as like scheduling my time or whatever the case is, planning ahead. All this stuff is pretty easy. When you have a big operation like this, it becomes like easy because you have to do it. You have to like understand what your projections look like and all this stuff. So it's just a part of the routine. And then a lot of me likes to keep it open because I'm up for anything. So it's not too often that I'm so busy that I can't change my schedule around to be able to do this one thing or whatever the case is. So I just got a great support team around me, man.
All right. That's awesome. Yeah. How do you personally get focused and stay productive when you really have to work on something for an extended period of time?
Yeah, that's not hard. Because like, you know, supporting my family and making money and building this business and stuff is so important to me that it's exciting. Like to give you an example, we had a gigantic order come through. It was over 7,000 pieces for one order, and we had to do a production run. And like, it's not even work, man. Like the time goes by so fast, and I don't know. I just have a great team, and we just do work.
Yeah. Well, we're just about ready to wrap up this interview, but you gave some great information about the startup process, and I loved your theory about the ugly baby. But before we wrap up, I'll ask you to provide one main takeaway that you'd like all the listeners to take away today.
Yeah, the number one thing would be the ugly baby thing. Like, figure that out. Whatever it is you're doing, you need to make sure that you're not falling in love with it so much to where you're blinded by the ability for people to want to buy it. So you need to get it out to people that aren't in your circle. You need to just make sure you get third-party opinions and everything, and have everybody else tell you if you have a beautiful baby or an ugly baby. And do that as quickly as you can. Because if your baby's ugly, you need to just stop wasting time on that ugly baby and go create yourself a beautiful baby somewhere else.
All right. So where can we find more about you and your business?
So we're on all the socials, Fiberlight Fire Starters, like Instagram, Facebook. Fiberlightfs.com is the website, and that's pretty much it.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for being on the show, Justin. I really appreciate it.
No problem, brother. I appreciate it a lot, man. And keep doing what you're doing. I think that your platform and what you're trying to accomplish is great. Podcasting is huge, and the young person, startup, entrepreneur, they need different things like this to be able to help them, do whatever. And then also through my website has my email on there. If anybody wants to, or feels the need to want to contact me to ask me questions about starting business or whatever, feel free. I'll do my best to make myself available and answer questions and try to see what I could do to help you, or at least point you in the right direction. So just go to the website, and my personal contact email is down there at the bottom, and shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to answer questions and things like that.
Awesome. Thanks for giving us that opportunity to reach out to you, Justin.
No problem, brother.
I'm really glad that I got to share Justin's story with you guys. Thanks again for being on the show, Justin. And thank you to everyone listening right now. I truly appreciate your support on this journey. And make sure to hit that subscribe button to hear more amazing entrepreneurial stories. And if you think I'm doing a good job with the podcast and would like to help me grow it to the next level, there's only 3 things that I'd ask you to help me do. First is to share it with somebody who you think would take a lot of value away from it. Number 2 is, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave us a rating and a review, because these mean the world to me and it helps bring more people to our show. And lastly, I'd like you to head over to studentbuiltstartups.com and sign up for the email list. You'll hear some really funny stories about me, you'll hear about some awesome tips and tricks, and you'll get my free Perfect Goal Setting Plan PDF, which in my next episode, episode 10, I'll be walking you guys through that and talking about setting goals. Well, that's all that I have for you guys today. Thanks again, and I'll catch you on the next episode.